All right, welcome back, True Seeker. It is Friday, September 17th, 2021, and the breaking news this evening or late afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, is the U.S. military has admitted to accidentally bombing a vehicle that had 7 children and 3 adults in it. They thought they were loading heavy weapons into the vehicle, but what they were loading were big containers of water. And if you're watching CNN's coverage of this, part of the angle of the story is because we've taken all the troops out of Afghanistan, we now have to rely on drones. And sometimes it's difficult to know as much just from watching the drone. They said a drone was following this family for 8 hours. And I guess in those 8 hours, they couldn't figure out it was a family or a group of children and adults. But a drone was following for 8 hours, and it watched them, make stops and go to a cafe and eat. Somehow in all this time, though, they couldn't figure out that it was 7 children and 3 adults and not a threat. But again, you guys, just rewind to what I was saying back when all this Afghanistan news was breaking. And, when the airport was supposedly bombed. Remember what I showed, or discussed in terms of the footage of the bombing was interesting because we know we've been bombing Afghanistan for the last 20 years with planes, drone strikes, all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's been a full-on military invasion of the Middle East by the U.S. and other Western powers, and we haven't really seen any footage of any bombs going off on the ground. And then on August 26th, they wanted to show us, a bunch of bodies piled up in a wet ditch, and they wanted to tell us that was the bombing at the airport. And I was like, is this airport like next to a big wet ditch? This footage doesn't exactly make sense based on where they're saying the bombing went off at. I mean, maybe it is next to a big wet ditch, but everyone should question, wait a minute. We've been bombing this place a lot, and there hasn't been any footage of any bombings. But like I said, in that time, they've given us stories just like today's story. This isn't the first time we've gotten a story like today, but it's the first time they've made it a headline news story. See, that's the difference about today's story. All throughout the last 20 years, there's been sub-headlines, military accidentally bombs hospital, military accidentally bombs mosque, military accidentally bombs wedding. These stories have been going on for 20 years. It's just they're not the big story of the night, so they're something that just gets skipped over. Tonight, they're making it the headline story for a slow news day on a Friday. U.S. military admits to bombing, 7 children, 3 adults. And again, just 7 children, it's like, awfully dramatic mistake. But again, part of the narrative is this is the consequence of not having troops on the ground, because had troops been on the ground, they would have been able to get better information, and this bombing probably wouldn't have happened. So see, if we have a military presence over there, then the people of Afghanistan are safer from our drone strikes. You see, that's part of the angle of this story, programming the sheep populace for, oh, yeah, man, we should send our 18-year-olds back over there. It's like, let's rewind the tape to September 11, 2001. Do we even belong over there? Did a man in a cave really have anything to do with what happened that day? Oh, didn't you see the tapes that were released with Osama bin Laden, the latest Osama tapes back after 9/11 with him admitting to it? It's like, yeah, the government news translated subtitles of what he was saying would be like 3, 4, 5 words, and you're like, man, they've been showing him talk for like 5 minutes, and all that they translated for us in the news story of his latest admission is 5 words? That doesn't make any sense. Again, you guys, nothing has changed since I was a teenager to now. The news media just treats people like they're really dumb. Every day gives them these horrible stories, these low vibration stories, missing. And by the way, yesterday, what was the news all day? A missing young woman? That's only the top headline if she's white. And these stories are just so random when they pull them out of places. It's just like, okay, why is this commanding the news today? Again, people need to wake up. Your news is a ritual. What I'm here to tell you is we've probably blown away countless children, mothers, fathers, people, that you'll just never hear about for no reason at all, that never needed to happen in the last 20 years. A lot of women have been raped in the Middle East because you had a lot of young, guys over there raging out, adrenaline rush. I mean, just all sorts of horrible stuff has gone over there. Talk to soldiers. They'll admit things to you. They've murdered people. They've raped people. This is what our young Americans have been doing. And then we bring them back to this country, and then they commit suicide, or they end up hurting somebody else over here. They end up homeless. Again, this is all the stuff that's been going on for 20 years. This is what should be the headline news every night. That's what annoys me so much about Americans. They only talk about stuff if it's in their programming. Oh, well, the programming said about it tonight, so now I can feel free to talk about it. You know, this is just what America is. They only talk about what's in the news. They can't see for themselves the things that they should be talking about. They need to be led every day into what the conversation talking point is. But this thing today is a sick joke, and I'm going to show you just how sick of a joke it is. You see how CNN emphasizes mistake as they tell you about the 7 children that got blown away? The mistake. This article right here is from ABC News. If you go to most mainstream outlets, you'll see that they emphasize the word mistake. And sometimes you'll see like a set of words that are emphasized in a headline. Sometimes it seems like, why did they emphasize those words? Again, there's a reason why. It's because something is being encoded by these new news networks that are part of a cabal. If you've heard that term, the cabal, the secret political faction, it is a real thing. It's why Kabul, Afghanistan, was established the same year as this nation, 1776, the same year the cabal was established, the Bavarian Illuminati, May 1st, 1776, by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. This entire thing is a huge Jesuit ritual with a very familiar pattern. So notice August 29th, 2021 was a date with 78 numerology. They're saying that's the day the mistake happened. It's being admitted today, 19 days later. But mistake has gematria of 78, right? So on a 78 date numerology, a mistake happens, which has a gematria value of 78. If you're new here, gematria is a Jewish practice that's very much used by the Catholic Church and the Jesuit order, who's part Catholic, part Jewish, just like your Supreme Court. Reminding you that tomorrow will be the 1-year anniversary of the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Jewish Rosh Hashanah, to be replaced by the Catholic Amy Coney Barrett, because the Supreme Court is pretty much always exclusively Catholic and Jewish. Funny how those were the things that were led against by the Protestant Reformation, and because of the Protestant Reformation, they say this country was created to escape that kind of tyranny in Europe, but here it is alive and well today, right? Again, I'm going to make it so crystal clear in my little book. I just keep polishing it up each day. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to tuck this in here. I'll be real done with this little guide real soon. It's the little guide to what is really going on in this world and the simple knowledge you need to see through it every single day. Because again, this is nothing. If you're new here and watching this, you've never seen any of my videos, this is what goes on every day. I've been here 8 years straight, every single day, educating people about how the news media takes them for fools, how they encode the propaganda, and where we're being led to, which is why I said, if we're not awake by 2020, 5 years before it was 2020, we're going to be fucked. I knew because it was 19 years after 2001, and 19's the number. COVID-19, 19 hijackers, and this story, 19 days after it supposedly happened, will make the point why. So again, in Gematria, mistake is 78. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. You just add up the letters of mistake. M's the 13th letter. I is the 9th. S is the 19th. T is the 20th. A is the 1st, so on. Mistake adds up to 78. K is the 11th. E is the 5th. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse and add up the letters of Jesuit, meaning Z is 1 back to A is 26, Jesuit 78. And remember, on the 78-year anniversary of Nikola Tesla's death this year, they said Elon Musk was the richest man in the world. Tesla also equals 78, the same way Jesuit does. You know, on the 78-year anniversary of Nikola Tesla, the CEO of Tesla Motors is the richest man in the world. That was the headline that day. It's because he's a Jesuit pawn, puppet, actor, fraud that just represents one of these big fascist agendas. That's what this entire country is, big fascist empire, from government to the mega corporations that run it. And again, you just look at how it all worked with the war. Look at the core group of corporations in this nation and how much they've all profited off the war, from Lockheed Martin to the other weapons manufacturers to Coca-Cola. They've all been making a killing off the war. Coke's been billing the taxpayer $15 a soda, you know? It's the kind of nation you live in. And that never makes the news, right? Except for when it does. When you're watching PBS at 11 p.m. on Friday, the McLaughlin Group brings it up. You ever watch the McLaughlin Group? I was probably the only teenager in the world watching the McLaughlin Group. But, yeah, it's just, I mean, you guys, that's why this world is so annoying and people are so dumb, man. Because it's like they don't know anything about anything because they haven't taken the time to look past anything that's outside of the mainstream headlines, you know? Jim Hightower, he'd always say about the masses, he'd always say, even a dead fish can go with the flow. Like it was a nation of dead fish. He was right. He died. I lost track of when he died. He might have died 10 years ago now. Time flies. But anyway, mistake 78, Jesuit 78. Remember, the Bavarian Illuminati was established by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, May 1st, 1776. He said their purpose was to infiltrate Freemasonry, take greater control over Freemasonry in America, where the new nation was being born. And it's interesting because modern Freemasonry was created in the Jesuit stronghold June 24, 1717 in London, in the independent city-state within London, like Washington, D.C. is an independent city-state, like Vatican's an independent city-state. That's where the Jesuits are. D.C., Georgetown, been there longer than the Fed. The Vatican. They're in Paris, France, too. I think Paris, France is their city. It doesn't go down as an independent city-state, but I think it is. But Scottish Rite, the big Masonic headquarters in D.C., the Scottish Rite's also got the 78 encoded. That's when you run the alphabetic order in reverse with the rules of numerology. Again, Gematria is based on the alphabetic order forwards, backwards, and forwards and backwards with the rules of numerology. But the Jesuit and Masonic motto, Order Out of Chaos, is 78. Remember, Wuhan coronavirus is 78. COVID-19. But from August 29th to today, September 17th, the admission is 19 days later. You know, Order Out of Chaos. Today has 47 date numerology. Kabul and D.C. are 47. Remember, government's 47, authorities 47, Vatican's 47, Christians 47, Republicans 47, Democrats 47, presidents 47, White House 47, Biden 47th VP, Obama took the White House at age 47, the night of Trump's election, the Jesuit fraud, he was in the 47-story Midtown Hilton Hotel, and then Biden is a senator for 47 years when he becomes president-elect. As Trump says, I've done more in 47 months than you've done in 47 years. And of course, Trump equals 47, who again is Jesuit educated, just like Joe Biden's from the Jesuit town of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Here's the other thing about today's story. If you listen to them tell the story, again, they thought this group of 7 children and 3 adults were loading weapons because they had big boxes that were going into a vehicle, but they were actually just loading big containers of water. And I can imagine what that might look like. The native reservations out here share these huge, like, I don't even know how many gallons of water in there. I mean, I feel like if you had one of those, you could probably drink water for the rest of your life. They're so big. You see people hauling them around in the back of their trucks. It's like the ultimate prepper thing to have. Token Tim doesn't have, I've seen bigger ones, but Token Tim has a good sized one in his garage. He has a truck, so. But yeah, you can get massive containers of water. And I mean, this is the military story. They were getting water. You know, the mistake is admitted to today. I imagine that, you know, if this really did happen, this is a dime a dozen story, but they're just deciding to report it for the sake of it being used as propaganda for why we need to get a military presence back in Afghanistan. And again, the whole reason people are like, no, we need to stay there because that's where the terrorists will form and then they could do another 9/11. If you're that person and you think that, it's because you are under massive mind control. Realize 9/11 had nothing to do with anybody in Afghanistan. Absolutely zero, zip, nada. Had a lot to do with people at the Vatican, people in Washington, D.C., you know, had a lot to do with people in Israel. These are all Jesuit strongholds. Israel's a Jesuit creation through and through. Can prove it a million different ways, including the day that Netanyahu stepped down this year. Huge Jesuit ritual. But yeah, I mean, it's just, Go back and watch. If you're new here, go back and watch the videos. Just scroll back to August when all this stuff was going on in Afghanistan. Just see everything I showed about the Jesuits, how it was a perfect ritual, how Afghanistan's government, I should have started with that. Afghanistan's government supposedly fell August 15th, which is the day the Jesuits were created in history in Paris, France. August 15th, 1534. A year ago, Trump's brother died on that day. Trump, who's Jesuit educated. So this entire thing in Afghanistan, every inch of everything we're reading, the airport thing, the collapse of the government, the 11 days it took for the Taliban to overthrow the nation, and then 11 days later to the airport bombing. All of this stuff, you guys, and the September 3rd attack in New Zealand, 903 days after the Christchurch, New Zealand mosque attacks. All of this stuff, you guys, it has nothing to do with the people of Afghanistan or Iraq or the Middle East. It has everything to do with the Jesuit order that is omnipresent, that is worldwide, that has been building a new world order since the 16th century. That's why I've always said the new world order is an old world order, and it's this, Catholic, Jewish, Jesuit, Masonic alliance. That doesn't mean everybody who's Catholic is guilty, everybody who's Jewish is guilty, everybody who's a Mason's guilty, everybody who goes to a Jesuit university. These are not the people who are guilty. It's the people, this is the network, but it's not everybody that's associated with that. So you can't just say that, oh, they're Catholic, they're Jewish, he goes to a Jesuit university, she does. You can't do that, but understand these are the controlling forces. Ultimately, they do control these school systems and influence the people who are part of their systems, like the students, and even the people within the religion. Again, I think all religion's bad and needs to be done away with, but I try not to be any more hating on one religion than the next. But yeah, it's just, it bothers me, because I know that the fact is, again, a couple of weeks ago, Notre Dame was playing on September 5th, and Sweet Lady's foster mom was here. She visits every now and then, and they both like watching football, so they wanted the game on. So the game was on, and then she was asking me, she's like, "So who's gonna win the game?" Because she knows about the decoding. She's been aware of the decoding for, she's known me as long as Sweet Lady has. But so I was telling her, and then I was saying, look, Notre Dame equals 95. When you use the alphabetic order. It equals 41 when you use the alphabetic order in rules of numerology. Today's 9-5. It's the only ranked game on 9-5. The other coach comes in with 41 wins. He's going to stay on 41 wins against Notre Dame on 9-5. And first touchdown of the game for Notre Dame is a 41-yard touchdown pass. And then the game ended up finishing, and Notre Dame won with 41 points. And at the end of it, she's like, and all these years she's been like this. She acts like she's interested in it, but then she's always like, I think that's probably a coincidence. Just everything that I've ever shown her, and all this stuff has been undeniable. So she watches the whole game play out in light of what I said before the game started. And at the end, she's like, yeah, again, Zach, if it was just one cipher you were using to decode, then I would think it was true. But because it's two, and sometimes you're using 3 or 4, she's like, I just think it's all just a coincidence. And I was like, okay, this is like, she's taking an impossible fucking position right now. Notre Dame, she's saying this after the game's over, and the fucking score's 41 after she witnessed that the first touchdown was a 41-yard touchdown. Again, that just shows you what's wrong with these people. And again, she's a Seattle type of person, She's the total Seattle image. But it's just like, it's a joke. What more do you say from there? It's just like, all you can do is just write off these people. Okay, this person's fucking retarded. And you know what's funny? She's always asking in the background if she can help, be my secretary. And I'm not giving you any work. She's always asking if she can be the person to help out. And I'm just like, you're the last person I would ever hire. You doubt the work all 8 years I've presented it. God. But again, this is what's wrong with humanity, you guys, is like, you can be in the room with them, being proven right in real time, and they're still in denial. Did you guys just watch what I did on Monday Night Football? I sat there and documented all the 34s all game, and I said why it was going to be 34 before the game began. It's at the top of my notes from that day. How does the game end? On a wide open pass that's impossible to explain, that was the 34th completion of the game. Not to mention it was his 56th pass attempt. Last night, Thursday Night Football, if you read my notes for this entire NFL week, I said this could be a week about 59 and conclude with a massive 59 ritual in tribute to Pope Francis. What's the first game of the week score? 30-29, 59 points. Plus, I thought Washington would win in the huge Jesuit ritual. Last night, they had to call a see, that's the thing about the penalties they call in the NFL for people who don't understand. They can call a fucking penalty every time. All sorts of guys are doing all sorts of shit every play. They call penalties when they want to. Last night they had to call a key penalty because the kicker missed the field goal so he could get a second chance, and then he made it, and then they won. But last night I liked Washington to win for a simple reason. It was the 177th regular season meeting in Jesuit, Washington, D.C., between the Redskins and the Giants, who are now the Washington football team. But it was the 177th regular season meeting, and Washington got their 69th win in the series. You see? There was more to it as well. 13 was also there. It was 16/9, like 169 square root 13. And the Giants picked up their 13th loss. God, what was it? It might have been the 13th loss at Washington. No, I think it was more than that. Some 13 they picked up in the all-time win-loss category between the two teams. It could have been in games on Thursday. It might have been games on... I forget, but there was a 13 there, and last week it was all about 13 as well. They call Thursday Night Football TNF, which is 13 in the most pure cipher like Dallas. Last week, Tom Brady got his 13th career win on a Thursday over Dallas on TNF to start the season. And remember, when you're on the alphabetic order in reverse, NFL's 13. It's the nation of 13 stripes, 13 colonies, 13 years of slave school programming, getting into things like rig sports and whatnot. But, again, you learn this knowledge. You can see what's going to happen in the football games before it happens, college and pro. You can see what's going to play out in your news. This is definitely connected to Yom Kippur, too. Yom Kippur is about atonement for your sins. This news comes the day after Yom Kippur wraps up. There's always some big tragic type story for Yom Kippur. And again, think about what the message is here. The sin of America... And the ruling class, again, they're the Society of Jesus. They know what they're doing. They understand spirituality and morality and all these things. But they realize what they're doing to us as a nation. It's like, we're showing you the evil that your nation's doing, and we're also showing you how you don't really give a fuck about it. How you're really not going to do anything about it. How you're just going to go along with it, not let it be bothersome to your day. But you'll get all caught up in the propaganda if we make you worry about it. In the emotional... Like, you'll care if children are shot at an elementary school and we report that on TV as a fact, even though that elementary school very well might not have been open for the last 4 years. That's the kind of shit they get away with. Yeah. Look into the big elementary school shooting, the one you can't talk about anymore. See if that school was even open. That school had been closed from 2008 due to flooding, and it's funny that year there was a strange storm named Sandy that flooded a place that doesn't normally get flooding like that from storms. It was 46 days apart, the shooting at the school and the flooding. And elementary is 46, and again, this code is really elementary. Connecticut also equals 46. The school might have been there, but I forget because we're not allowed to talk about it. Anyway, the other thing in the news, you guys, tomorrow, September 18th, if you've read my book, Number Games, 9/11 to Coronavirus, my second book. In both books, I talk about September 18th in Washington, D.C., but I talk about it in chapter 1 of this book. And this book released right before September 18th of last year. What happened last year on September 18th in D.C. is Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And remember, she died 187 days after her birthday. Whoops. If you write out Society of Jesus, that's the official name of the Jesuits, it's 187. You see how it's 56 as well? 56, 187. All the numbers up there matter, but Washington, D.C. is 56, 187. So is Paris, France, where the Jesuits are from. Anthony Fauci, his name's the exact same as Washington, D.C. in every cipher, but he's got the 56, 187. Again, the Jesuit scumbag that the entire pandemic's planned around, along with him and Bill Gates, another Jesuit scumbag. But Washington, D.C. is 187. Society of Jesus, 187. Remember, if you write out George Washington, who was favored by the Catholic Church and the Protestant-leaning nation, new nation, he was a 187. Remember, Georgetown was established the year he turned 57. George is 57. Georgetown is 57. That was January 23rd, 1789, the year Georgetown was established. And then next month, February 1789, George Washington turned 57. And remember, Was it 4 of the first 6? I think it is 4 of the first 6. 4 of the first 6 presidents were inaugurated at age 57. And the Scottish Rite is in D.C. as well. Shares the motto with the Jesuits at Marum Dei Gloriam. Scottish Rite also 57. And remember, Rome is 57. All roads lead to Rome. Rome's got the 51 as well, like federal. Washington, D.C. used to be Rome on the Potomac. But remember, January 6th insurrection, I did really great videos about it before it even happened. And YouTube took down both of them for medical misinformation, even though none of them had anything to do with medicine or medical information. It was about what to expect in the planned Jesuit ritual of January 6th and why the Confederate symbolism would be huge and why there would be reported death, because it was all simulated at Jesuit Georgetown with the Transition Integrity Project, June 12, 2020. As I speak, you guys, I realize why I have to be so censored. People would actually look up this shit if these videos were getting out there, and then new people would learn about it, except for the same 1,000 people that watch my video every time I make a video. I feel like that's all I'm reaching. It's fine. I'll do it for you guys to keep us sane, but I know that these videos are not reaching anybody. I mean, since I did the work on Tupac the other day, like years ago, if I did the work on Tupac with my books out there, the books would have sold. I've sold 1 copy of my ebook since Wednesday. Normally, I average like 2 ebooks a day. I've sold 1, and big events so I realize I'm being super censored right now. Like, I'm not reaching anyone. And it makes me less motivated to make videos. I mean, I make videos for the community, but you guys know the work, right? My intention with every video is to reach somebody new. And big tech is making it so people like myself can't reach people. We can't find new people. It was not like that in 2016. It wasn't even like that in 2017. It was getting worse and worse. 2017 is when they went into hyperdrive. But it's gotten so bad. For me, it's since the beginning of 2019. I haven't had a single video hit 100,000 views since the beginning of 2019. Not even my work on Kobe. It almost did. My Kobe work sniffed 100,000 views, but still, that's pathetic. I mean, I used to be able to get 100,000 views on the regular in 2016. But yeah, you guys, you got to help share this work, as again, it just increases the chance it's going to find someone new. And your attitude can't be, well, I'm not getting any likes on my social media. So that's the reason you share the work, to get a thumbs up, not to put it out there in case somebody sees it. That's the real reason to put it out there, not because you're like a little 5-year-old and you're like, ooh, I got a star on my sticker chart. I got a thumbs up. Who cares about your thumbs up? Don't worry about all that. And if a bunch of losers start talking shit, don't worry about them either. Just get this new mentality of, I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to be in agreement with everyone. I'm here to get out the message about what's going on in the world so it can find the people who need to know until we have enough people to do something about it. But this whole thing that's going to go down tomorrow, again, it's on September 18th. That's the day in history the cornerstone was laid for Washington, D.C. September 18th, 1793, a date with 47 numerology. September, it's a life lesson number. 9 plus 18 is 27. 1 plus 7 plus 9 plus 3 is 20. So you have 27 plus 20, 47. Remember, the Masons have the 47th problem of Euclid about how to establish foundation for a structure. Out of the base ciphers, the most pure ones, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, were foundations 47. But notice all these words. Government has 47 in it. Authority 47. Republican 47, Democrat 47, White House 47, President 47, just the letters DC alone are 47. I don't talk about the Septenary and Chaldean ciphers that often, but they're related and they're important. Look at Washington, D.C. in these 2 ciphers. Washington, D.C. is 47 in both, you see? And again, the last guy there was Mr. 47. Biden's another 47, 47th VP, took office with 47-year-old Obama. Last year, a judge died on this day. Judge, you see how judge is 47, 20, 88, 25? Look at gavel, 47, 20, 88, 25. And they use all these numbers ritualistically in D.C. with the justices. Again, shown it all so many times, written books about it. Wouldn't it be amazing to see how many times I've repeated myself in making videos? Just like, I'd like to see what the most repeated points are and how many times I've said them. I mean, it would be thousands, you guys, just thousands of times repeating the same things over and over. Redundancy, though, is key to learning. That's why they teach math all wrong now. Common Core, a million different topics at once, hardly any repetition. Just, you guys, the reason to pull your children out of school was long before masks and vaccine mandates. It's because school is fucking with your child. I mean, have you seen what they've done? Like, I think I escaped school just in time, where it was possibly more, I don't know if it was ever more helpful than harmful, but it's become way more harmful since I graduated from high school in 2001. And they had a whole new thing going on the next school year. They had to start with all this new standardized testing, and I was like, I got out of here. Finally, I got out of here just in time, but I felt bad for all the people just behind. And then, God, to think that generation, then they got 9/11 that year, and anyway, school's always been a mess, but it's at least they taught some topics right when I was still coming up. Like math was, go home and do 50 problems each night. Make sure you understand how to do this problem. Make sure you memorize these patterns. Now if you have 50 problems, it's 50 different topics and you're totally confused. So anyhow, here's everything that stands out to me about tomorrow's event. This ritual is not as clear to me as what they had going on January 6th. January 6th was easy to see because it was 6/1. The American Civil War began in 1861. Washington, D.C., 61. It had a nice alignment with Trump. Just everything we were covering at the time. But I do understand why they're doing it on this important day for D.C. I noticed that it's going to be the 228-year anniversary of the cornerstone being laid, which again was September 18th, 1793. And the most simple cipher, United States of America, is 228. Remember, the only born American who has a holiday named after him is Martin Luther King Jr., who's also 228, and that's because he died. Death is 38 with the alphabetic order. In the alphabetic order, where you multiply the alphabetic order times 6, death is 228. By the way, the word mistake has a 666 in it as well. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse and multiply by 6, mistake is 666. Got the mistake ritual in Afghanistan today. 78 is really the number, though. But January 6, 2021, that was a date with 48 numerology. Tomorrow, September 18th, 21, will be a date with 48 numerology as well. Donald Trump equals 48. Again, this all has to do with Trump. They're calling this the Justice for J6 rally. Justice for J6 equals 77, like United States is 77, like DC's on the 77th meridian. It's sponsored by the Look Ahead America group, which equals 68, like Donald John Trump, like The Apprentice, like CIA. And I'm an idiot. Hold on, let me fix this post. Sometimes my fingers are writing things that my brain is not thinking. But tomorrow does have 48 date numerology. It also has 68 date numerology. So perfect day for Look Ahead America rally. And if you're new here, these numbers are used in such massive rituals. The whole Kabul, Afghanistan airport thing was a massive 68 ritual. 1968, the year World Trade Center construction began. The year 911 was made the National Emergency Dialing Code. The year George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. 2001, A Space Odyssey came out. All that 33 years before it all comes together in 9/11. And Trump is just total CIA Jesuit pawn stooge to divide the country, just like I said he would be in February 2016. Again, I just re-uploaded that video because some idiot was saying I never said anything like that about Trump back then, so I just had to re-upload it to prove it. And for the moron who's like, well, because you re-upload, we can't tell, just take a look at the fucking video, moron. Do I not look a lot younger in that video? I mean, that video is from over 5 years ago. Trust me, I've definitely aged myself. It's going on 6 years old, that video. I have aged myself by not exercising as much because I've been parked on my ass working in this chair day in, day out. And, this is not, what I've been doing, you guys, is service. It's not like, this isn't what I want my life to be, what the last 8 years have been. It's doing what you can to try to help wake up people to what is coming. And sadly, I've been right on about everything. I wish I wasn't. And, it kind of feels like it's too little too late now. But like I said, there's no quitting. If you quit, then it's definitely too little. Then it's over. If all the truth seekers in the world quit, it would be over for sure. So I maintain the frame of mind every day that somehow, some way, in the same way that the minds of the masses are taken by the controllers now, somehow we can take their minds back and then solve the problem. Like, they live. When they take down Channel 54 at the end, remember Jesuit Order 54 in the Most Pure cipher? Established was Georgetown by John Carroll 54 when he was 54 years old, the first Jesuit university, where I'm pretty sure the majority of these scripts that were reading out in the news are contrived day after day. Pence preps for potential 2024 presidential run. Well, I'll just tell you right now, that's not going to be the president of the United States. By the way, Mike Pence, though, he was the VP to number 45. 45 forwards and backwards, you know. So. And again, they did something similar with Biden. Joe Biden's got the 44. VP to number 44. Kamala's got all sorts of things. Yeah, so we'll see what they do tomorrow. I mean, is there going to be death on the 228th year anniversary? I'm not sure which way they're going with this right now. I'm not sure if they're going to escalate it more tomorrow or if tomorrow is going to be like, see, they've upped the security so much and they've really squashed the QAnon movement. Well, I have to wait to see what they're going to do tomorrow. I'm not sure which way they're going with it. I don't know if it's deadly chaos tomorrow or if it's they've squelched the uprising and essentially it's like tyranny flexing their muscles. Because understand, it is all their soap opera, but the thing is, the January 6th PSYOP, it did have people come to that who really did think the election was stolen. It's because, again, they're not following my channel. Had they were, they wouldn't have been taken by all this obvious setup. I keep getting Brian at High Impact Flicks to try and understand my work. He doesn't seem to want to understand the work, and he keeps being ignorant for that, and he thinks he's holier than thou in his ignorance. But again, if you go back and watch his work after the election was called for Biden, he's up there uploading videos saying, like, man, I think this really was stolen from Trump. It's just like, this guy's such a putz, man. Go buy another one of this idiot's t-shirts, because we need his fucking voice in the community. But again, you guys, they simulated the election with the Transition Integrity Project, where Biden wins, Trump narrowly loses, he refuses to step down, he says he's cheated, and it leads to deadly violence. That's exactly why they did the election the way they did, where they stopped all the counting late Tuesday night, Trump was in the lead, it looked like he was going to win, and then you wake up the next day, and they're saying, whoa, Biden overnight, all these votes came in. It's like, wait a minute, I thought they stopped last night. But again, you guys, this is a joke. Joe Biden would have never even been the Democratic candidate if it wasn't a joke. Hillary Clinton never would have been the candidate in 2016 if it wasn't a joke. Trump probably would have been the candidate in 2020. The American suckers like Trump. He's different. That's what the American suckers go for, something that's different. That's how easy it is to manipulate them. Just give them something a little bit different, and then they'll all be on board. Oh, this is different. This is cool. Oh, Trump, a black guy, a senile guy. I don't think anybody got excited about senile Joe Biden, but it's just... Yeah, I mean, it's a nation of fools and dopes and purposely, again, the reason everyone's this way is because they were made to be this way, chemically poisoned, made to be stupid in 13 years of slave school, and, it's only the high IQ, and it's like you got to have a high IQ and have the right moral compass, I think, to be ahead as a true, well, I don't know, man. I might have to take back the high IQ. There's some people in this community that I'm like, man, they see what's going on, but they're not the sharpest tool in the shed either. So, I don't know, man. It's a strange mix, the truth community, but again, if you do have intelligence, it helps out with everything. So, okay, and then one more thing. People want me to cover Russell Wilson's friend dying at age 48. I mean, what do you think I'm going to say? Russell Wilson won Super Bowl 48 with the Seahawks, because Seahawks is 48, and remember, they scored exactly 43 points. And Seattle Seahawks is 43 in the Most Pure. And that was the 94th NFL season, Super Bowl 48. Seattle, Washington's 94. And remember, his grandfather died at age 94 right after that. And I could say a lot more about 94 and the way it's used beyond football. Coronavirus pandemic 94, the face of it, who's up in... Remember, the coronavirus pandemic began in Seattle, right? That's where the first case was confirmed. Outside of mainland China, the first case in the world in Seattle, Washington, where Bill Gates is, the guy who 10 years earlier called for a decade of vaccines in January 2010 on his 94th day of his age. In 1994, him and did I say Melania? Him and Melinda, who has the same birthday as the Jesuits, were married on the first day of January 1st, 1994. His mom died that year. His dad died at age 94 last year. I talked all about Bill Gates in 94 and his agendas, and this book came out before his dad died at age 94 on the 258th day of the year, and I also point out the pattern in that same book with William Henry Gates in 258 and him establishing his vaccine alliance on the 258th day of his age. And being one of the main sponsors of Event 201 and, being a Jesuit scum, William Henry Gates, 84, like Jesuit. Did you see how his name was also 96, like Freemason? That's who runs the show, you guys. Jesuits and Masons. That's what DC is. Oh, wow. Speaking of the Jesuits, France recalls its ambassadors to the U.S. and Australia over new national security partnership. Wow, a contrived beef between the Jesuit nations. Remember how the founders studied in France, where the Scottish Rite came to power, where the Jesuits were created? I'm sure there's more to this Russell Wilson story, but let me see. Doesn't his name have a 106 in it somewhere? Is it his first name or surname? Is it? His name has all sorts of connections with the Jesuits. See how 54, 153? Just like Jesuit order. Again, the world of sports is controlled by the same Jesuit cabal. What is it, Russell? Russell's 106. So the story came out yesterday, the day leaving 106 days left in the air. That's going to be a big number this week in the NFL. It is. But yeah, Russell Wilson's friend dead at 48. I mean, I don't even need to blink at that story. I've already told you guys about the Seahawks in 48 a gazillion times. Last week, for all you Seahawks fans out there, last week, Pete Carroll picked up his 123rd win with the Hawks over Indianapolis. Isn't it amazing that more people don't want this knowledge? It's like they don't want to escape the Matrix. You see, that's the problem. Our fellow man does not want to leave the Matrix. It's just like the fucking movie. It's just, if you've never seen the movie The Matrix, there's the one part where the guy wants to go back in because he misses the taste of a steak, which he got to experience in the Matrix. Because once he's not living in the Matrix and he's seeing things for what they really are, it's not as pleasant. It takes more discipline, more self-sacrifice, more willpower. Takes the qualities that more people should have, That's the problem. We live in a society of just weak fucking people, you guys. Weak in so many ways. Spiritually, mentally, physically. Weak, frail people. And that's why whenever people start coming and telling me about God and stuff, I'm like, this person's without God. This person might think that they might believe in one of these fake religions, but this person doesn't know a fucking thing about God. I challenge anyone to try and do what I've done. You got to work 8 years straight, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and you got to do the first 5 years without making a penny. Let's see you do it. I did it, so let's see you do it. That takes God, That takes, believing in something more than yourself, right? I don't like the believe word, but again, the things I believe in is that even though it seems like we're totally fucked, somehow there's going to be a way that we're going to make it better. And I guess that's what you have to do. I mean, that's my religion. I don't delude myself with some middleman that God has that some child learned in a book and their, not so bright parent told them they better believe in or else. But I guess my religion that keeps me going is just like, the world needs to be made into a better place, and somehow it's going to happen. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I think that's what God would want, man, to fix his creation. And you have to see, take a look at, stop deluding yourself with all this shit you read in a book. Look at the way, if there is a God, if we're right that there's a God, he created a world, and I don't think he intended he or she or it or them or whatever. I don't know, the creative force. But I don't think they intended it for it to be so terrible, I think they made it so it's kind of like a test and a challenge and temptation. But I don't think they meant for it to get as bad as it has, so that the children of the world have to grow up in a world like this with a muzzle over their face and injected with all these chemicals from these for-profit companies that haven't even been adequately tested, and we don't know exactly what the consequences are going to be. I don't think it's supposed to be this bad. I think it's gotten to be this bad. I think it's just like maybe this is how God amuses them, or the gods, or whatever it is. This is how they amuse themselves to see how their creation plays out. Maybe like in the Bible, there's a reset. The great flood almost already is wiped out. Maybe then they come back. They put a little more touch on it. Okay, let's do this a little bit different this time. Maybe this was the ingredient we got wrong. You know what I mean? But yeah, whatever it is that needs to make things go right, that's what I've been trying to do for 8 years straight. Because I've seen how bad it is ever since I was a child, especially after 9/11. 9/11 was just the most depressing thing for me. It just showed me how brain dead everybody was, how easily taken like suckers they were by their government and their news. Yeah, everybody just so emotional too. Can't even talk about anything, just breaking down, Just having a breakdown. And then meanwhile, they don't even give a shit about stuff like this. Past 20 years I've been saying, because I'd say things like that. I'd say, that sticker you have on your car, do you ever think about putting up a sticker like support the Afghani people? Do you just read the latest headline about how they just blew up a mosque and a wedding by accident? Supposedly an accident? People are like, I worry about our troops over here. It's like, oh, okay. And then my thought in my mind is like, God, the people in this country are so fucking gone. They're so fucking evil. Does that person not realize how evil they are? All you care about is people in the boundaries that you were born into? I mean, that's why I'm just amazed how people get taken by all this shit. Country and all this. It's like, I didn't choose to be here. What am I supposed to be so proud of? I have to be in school each day where I don't want to be, and I'm told I'm so free, and I'm so lucky to be here? I don't feel lucky to be here at all. I feel like I've been born 200 years ago before this shit existed. I'd be lucky to be here. See, the tyranny wasn't always here, man. That's also the way my mind works. It wasn't always here. It can be gotten rid of. They're making it harder and harder, though, aren't they? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. If you guys don't know, I do stay on top of all the news stories. I also stay on top of all the sports because I'm always trying to build this movement. It's nonstop work. It's a lot of time to decode football games. But at the same time, if you follow me in the sports, it's mind-blowing stuff, and you just see how week after week the value of this. And you can see that it's very clear the Jesuits control everything from your sports to your news because we're saying what's going to happen in the news and sports games before it happens, and they're always syncing it all up. Last week, there were 4 QBs that hadn't been vaccinated, and all 4 lost. All 4 lost. You know who's calling right now? It's True Seeker, sweet lady, so I really got to get off. All right, until next time. Love?
Yeah. Are you busy?